Episode of LinkedIn Sites. I'm so lucky that people agree to come and be guests on my show, and today is no exception. I have the amazing Mark de Grasse. I said that right, de Grasse? I should actually make
Yes, you
sure I
did.
pronounce it correct. Um, and we're going to start with an easy question. So, who are you, and what do you do?
Sure. My name is Mark de Grasse. I'm the president of Digital Marketer, one of the first and the best marketing education companies online. We've actually been doing this type of training for over a decade. And, we've come up with a lot of things that everybody uses without even thinking about, like the customer value journey is our strategic framework that we teach. And then everything that we teach within digital marketing actually revolves around the single framework, which really simplifies marketing, both the execution of it and the understanding of it. So that's what I do.
So, so you mentioned a bunch of tools and resources, and I'm kind of curious. So, what is it? What's the problem that people then come to digital marketing to solve?
Sure. Well, marketing has been siloed over the last 10, 15 years. We're basically have a ton of specialists that sell their specialty. So SEO people tell you SEO is the way to do marketing, and the social media people tell you that social media is the way to do marketing, content and email and paid traffic and all these different factors. And so everybody's just been pushing this single agenda and this silo of marketing. And that's wrong. Because what's happened now is that you need a much more comprehensive approach to marketing that actually involves all these different methods of marketing, but needs a cohesive strategy. So what we do is we say, hey, here's the overall strategy. It's an 8-stage process. It takes somebody from knowing nothing about your brand or product, buying your brand or product, ascending through your funnel, and then eventually becoming a marketing channel themselves as a promoter or advocate of your brand. And so it's an 8-stage process. Now, everything that you do within marketing is actually just inserted into the different stages. And so with awareness, you might use social media posting. With subscription, you might use email marketing. With conversion, you might use, all these different aspects of funnel design and, e-commerce and whatever it is, but it's all inserted into these 8 stages. And what it does is allows you to make a really comprehensive approach to marketing that reinforces brand awareness and then builds lifetime customer value with every single customer that you ever have. And so what we're trying to essentially do is fix marketing because, because of just the nature of the internet and how it evolved over the last 10 years, we've all become really dependent on paid ads. And so what's going to happen now that everybody's kind of getting on board, and thanks to AI kind of automating a lot of these technical aspects that used to be kind of the bread and butter of marketers, are going away. They're going to be automated. They're going to be very simple. And so what can marketers do? Marketers could do strategy, because no matter what happens, your company still needs a strategy, and you need a person that's going to manage the execution of that strategy and the relationships with both your customer and the other executives within a company in order to execute. And so we're trying to essentially now revolutionize marketing by taking it back to 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, when marketing was all about how do you establish a brand, how do you gain your customers' trust, and how do you make those sales over the lifetime of your company, not just that single purchase, which is kind of what we've been focused on too much for the last decade or so.
Yeah, I'm a brand guy, and I believe that building that brand, which a lot of businesses don't spend any time, money, or energy into, is super important. It's where you start. So the brand
Exactly.
strategy is where you begin your journey, as it were. Uh, so I'm curious in terms of and I thought about what you're describing is kind of the one-stop shop. Like, you have all these kind of siloed things, and it's like, no, come right here. You have the overall strategy, and then you plug in the pieces, the tactical things that you need to achieve that strategy. It makes a lot of sense. Um, who's kind of the ideal customer or client for digital marketing?
We try to be an intermediate marketing professional platform. So people who have experience with marketing, have some understanding of marketing, are professional marketers. So they consider marketing their career and their objective. And so that's our bread and butter, is these people who really want to, get to that next level of marketing, become a fractional CMO or a CMO or a director of marketing or whatever title you want. But we want to create leaders. We want to create marketing leaders and people who maybe have been in one of those silos and have discovered that, hey, I'm a social media marketer. I go into these companies and they hire me to do social media marketing, but they don't have their funnels in place. They don't know how to get conversions. Their website is terrible. Their overall branding and every other aspect is crap. And so even though I'm a great social media marketer, it doesn't matter because they don't have a strategy. They don't even know what they want. They just were told that TikTok is a good place to get awareness. And so they hired me to do TikTok and don't give a crap what I do with it. And so when I show these results, even as a marketer, I say, hey, well, I upped your, followers by 500% and your convert and your, traffic to the website by this percentage, blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't matter because at the end of the day, the executives within most companies will say, well, how much money did it make? And you'll have to say, well, that's not the function. That's not what you told me to do. And then they'll be like, well, you're fired anyways. And so we're looking for, people who want to do marketing, who understand marketing. And honestly, my personal objective is to make the CMO just as important as the CFO, as the COO, as the CEO. It's that vital of a function, and the fact that it's the shortest lived C-suite position is a travesty, and we need to fix it. So that's who I'm looking to help.
Sure. Fantastic. So as you know, my book is coming out soon, and I'm curious, with someone who's as knowledgeable and experienced as you probably read few books on business and marketing. Can you name a book or a podcast, because I'm a big podcaster, that you think was worth your time?
You know what's funny is about me is I read a ton of fiction. So like most of my reading time is on fiction, which I do find business applications through. But I don't listen to that many podcasts either. It's kind of funny because my goal is always like 100 to 150 plus podcasts a year is what I create. But in terms of actually listening to it, it's not a ton. But with that said, I do have some, and and it was actually part of the digital marketer brand before, but Perpetual Traffic was actually one of our podcasts that we sold off so we could concentrate on our podcast, digitalmarketer.com's podcast. But Perpetual Traffic, if you are a paid media person and you're looking to, kind of level up how you understand paid media, which is constantly changing, I'd say that's a really good one. And then, whatever Qasim Aslam is doing, check out whatever his podcast is these days, because he's super knowledgeable. And just some of these guys that I talk to, at least on my podcast, I'm just like, man, there's so much knowledge here that you could blow up. So digitalmarketer.com podcast and Perpetual Traffic.
I'll put both in. Gotta have both. And in terms of LinkedIn, we're streaming live on LinkedIn. Can you name a LinkedIn connection that you're happy that you have?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I'll give you
tough one to call out someone, but you can call out a couple if you want. It's fine.
Oh, no. We're actually, digital marketer, we're always looking for faculty. So I always look for like placing faculty in different methods so I could call on them when we need different types of information and just to keep us up to date. So, on LinkedIn, I would definitely check out Joshua B. Lee. So he is the dopamine dealer of LinkedIn, is fantastic. He's very inside. So he actually talks to the people at LinkedIn, and he has like the inside track, and that actually tells me about features that are coming out or existing features that are fantastic that I didn't know about. So he's really good. And then Mandy McEwen, who I would call the queen of LinkedIn. She's also, very good at networking, very good at the personal branding side of it, especially where she has some tips. Like you can listen to any of the stuff we've created with her and instantly apply it and instantly get results. And so I think she has a fantastic practical approach to, marketing on LinkedIn that works. I personally follow a lot of her stuff just for my personal networking.
And again, it's I look at marketing as a piece of what's the value you're bringing. And so you're listening to these people who are, not talking the talk, but they're actually giving you tangible takeaways that you can go and implement and use and improve your results. And so I think that's great. Well, I am a little obsessed with content marketing, which is an element. And I think that comes in your strategy pretty early on. What is your favorite type of content to consume from other brands?
Ooh, what's funny, and everybody laughs at me when I say this, but TikTok, it's the best platform. I've been doing this since like the start, and there's never been a platform that feeds more consistent, relevant content to me than anywhere else. And it's just like sometimes I feel like it's almost every video is just dialed in, and then if it's not that, then maybe every 3, depending on the mood I'm in. But it's just like magic. And so I would say anything on TikTok. Like at this point, I'm actually doing searches on TikTok instead of doing searches on Google or even using ChatGPT because the content on TikTok is so specific and so well, it's quick. I don't have to think like, oh, let me find a video on YouTube and oh, that one's 20 minutes long. And then you look for another video. Oh, this guy's giving like a 5-minute intro. Like, I don't want to listen to that. And TikTok's just like, nope, here you go. Step one, dot, 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 dot. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that saved a ton of time. So yeah, TikTok is it.
Time is the one thing we can't. We're all the same amount of time. And if someone can save you time, you're good to go.
Exactly. Well,
okay, now
that's even better than that because on TikTok, if you find the video you want, let's say you find that topic you want, then it knows you, so it just finds even more stuff. And so it's like
the algorithm,
maximum efficiency. I love
it. What is your favorite type of content to create? So I know with digital marketing, you create lots of content. What's the favorite thing that you like to put out in the world?
Okay, this is two parts because I think practically and from a time side, it's podcasts. Podcasts, you could have like 50 of them in a month if you really wanted to, because all it is a meeting and a conversation, and that's it. And then that conversation, even if you have a theme to it, you'll find sub themes and you'll find different branches of content that you could generate just based on a single conversation. And the content's almost done as soon as you finish the meeting. So it's incredible. And then that could drive your articles and it could drive your videos, and you could splinter it into a million different short tracks. I mean, it's insanely productive and efficient at creating content. Now, with that said, the type I enjoy to make the most would probably be video content, specifically with animations and graphics and a bunch of stuff going on, neat sounds. Yeah. I love it.
It's fun. It's fun.
It's so much fun, and there's so much creativity to it, and you'll intend to do something, and then you'll start working on it, you'll be like, oh my gosh, this looks even better. So it's almost like this generative process of creativity as you're creating the content. So that's my favorite. With that said, though, it's also the most difficult. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort, and at the end of the day, it's just like every other piece of content where something that you think is great could just suck. And then you spend all this time and you thought it was great, and you invest all this emotion, and then you find out that nobody cares, and you're like, oh, that hurts so bad because I wasted time and energy, and nobody liked it.
I've had, as a content creator, I am very familiar with that. Like, but this is so good. Why
this is so good? Everybody's stupid. You should love this.
Right. I often feel that way. And then you kind of talked about a little bit, but what do you think is the biggest challenge in creating consistent, valuable content?
I think it gets
most people stuck.
Straight up ego. And it's there's different facets of it, but what ends up happening is as people, we come up with this decision, like, I'm going to be a content marketer, I'm going to go on social every day, I'm going to do my 100 posts to get to relevancy and blah blah blah. But the problem is when you start creating and you start realizing that what you think is good is not what other people think is good. And that no matter how much time, effort, passion, love, sweat, tears, all those different things just don't matter, because the result is what matters. And if you can't handle the result, which might be just failure, then you're going to stop. And so the biggest barrier is the ego, because you could say you're going to do all these things, but the minute you get that pushback, like, nah, your stuff sucks, or nah, a bunch of trolls attacked you for something that you didn't even think was an issue, and then you stop, and then you're just like, well, it's not generating any money for me right now, it's not generating traffic, like, I'm not getting the result, it's not going to matter if I stop. And so all of this is just self-talk that you're doing that's going to stop you from creating. And so the biggest barrier is that. And that's why, digital marketing, why I love being part of digital marketers, everything we do is frameworks and procedures and, metric driven results, where it's like, no, your ego is great. Your emotions and your drive, that's all fantastic. Use it to create content. Don't use it to judge the content, because the market's going to judge the content. That's their job. So you just have to worry about creation. And so if you could just get into a systematic plan and just ignore everything else that's happening. I'm not saying that you don't need to review and do feedback and innovate based on results and blah, 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 blah. Sure. I'm just talking about if you're stopping, if you can't go and you never created an actual campaign, this is your problem. You need to set the plan. You need to do the plan and ignore everything else going on. And then once you've done the plan. Man, you know what? I started this and I'd only done a week before, and then I did 4 weeks. And it turns out everybody loves it. Everybody thinks it's great. You know, the algorithm is picking it up. It's being shared more. All these different things are happening. And all you did was just ignore everything happening, just worry about creation. And so that's the trick. Get into
Yeah,
creation, drop the
I
ego.
think the drop the ego part. The way I think about that is you have to have thick skin to be a content creator, because if you can't handle a bad comment, if you can't handle the lack of engagement, then you're not going to be able to continue on. And you have to kind of I know people. I think it was Gary Vee that said he was on YouTube for a year and a half before anyone started watching, and it was the fact that he had time to get better and figure out what worked and what didn't work. And B, the market, if you have something that's worthwhile, that is valuable, eventually they'll come in. There's a tipping point where people go, oh, wait a minute, I need to now pay attention to this. So I think it's one of those things where, content creation is not for the weak. It's
No.
definitely, someone who, and patience is something that, I don't want to, disparage a whole generation of people, but patience is something that, we're so geared towards thinking that we should have instant success.
Yes.
And I love, so John Legend, who I have a connection with, I remember he said at one of his conferences, like, I am a 9-year overnight success. And so everyone's like, oh yeah, because people, when you become the success, people are like, oh, they don't see all the hard work and the sweat tears that you put in, and when it didn't happen. And then you kept at it because you have to believe in that, and eventually, and listen to the market. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, I love you. The market will judge you, and if it continues to say pass, maybe think about trying something different.
Exactly. Well, and that's the problem, because when you look at successful people, and I was completely, the same way. You look at successful people, you're like, well, they're doing this, 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 and this, and I'm doing that, and that. Like, what the hell? Why are they super successful and I'm not? And it's like, no, that's their path. That's their formula. That's their solution. That's not yours. Like, you might be able to outline it, but you're a different person. Your objectives are different. Your situations are different. Like, everything else is different. So no, that formula could help. It could provide some guidance, but it's not going to provide your specific guidance. Your specific guidance is based on you and your formula and your solution and your goals and blah, 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 blah. It's impossible for anybody else's formula to work for you. It doesn't work like that. And so once you get to this of like, no, there's only one formula, and you haven't made it yet.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's the awareness piece. I think when you talk about the ego, it's because people aren't self-aware enough to recognize, to get out of their own way and realize why, they're looking at excuses of why things didn't work, as opposed to being self-critical enough to be like, okay, let me actually be thoughtful about this and figure out what will work for me.
Exactly.
And be yourself and all those things. You don't, for a long time.
But you don't know yourself. That's another big mistake, is that people think like, well, you need to know yourself, and people say that you need to know yourself, and it's just like, yeah, you don't even know what that means. Like, you haven't experienced it. You haven't been honest with yourself, because that's probably the most difficult part of self-awareness and growth, is like, no, you gotta stop the excuses. The excuses are so easy. Like, here's a million of them. And honestly, people will support your excuses. And that's another aspect of growth, or barriers to growth, where it's just like, no, if you tell somebody, oh, well, I didn't do it because X, Y, they'd be like, well, of course you didn't do it, man. How could anybody do that? Like, of course you failed, and it wasn't your fault, and blah, and you'll get reinforcement from that. So you have to drop all that, actually run it by nobody, and just accept it.
Or I think one of the things is, talk about surrounding yourself with people who are gonna, it's good to have people who are gonna help be positive, but then sometimes you need someone who's gonna be straight with you and be like, because it's not good enough, or because it's, well, if you don't have someone in your camp that can point out, that could say, listen, it's not good, or it's not working, and maybe you should consider a different career, or whatever it may be,
Well, if you can't accept that too, because that's the thing. I think everybody has those people in their lives, but it's so easy to get rid of them, to alienate them, be like, oh no, that's my negative friend. They don't support me like I want to be supported. And those are probably their best friends. And it's like, no, sorry, you're a jerk.
Get to the back.
It's all difficult.
There's a way, but yes. Well, Mark, I have one final question, which is sort of unrelated, but because I produce animation and I'm kind of into animation, um, can you name one of your favorite animated characters from the dense, beautiful history of animation?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I should have thought about that question before. I probably do. I'm trying to think of a specific one right now for animated characters.
You got all the Looney
Uh,
Tunes, you got all the Pixar
no, I know it,
movies.
I know it. I can't remember his name, but
I'm
I
just trying to
know the
help out there.
character because I think about this person a lot. It's actually the main
Okay,
character from an anime series called Trigun. And so the main character was this horrendously violent character who could destroy cities literally, like that was part of his abilities. But his actual
like Ben.
personality was just this soft, pacifist, peaceful goofball. And the thing he wanted to do least was actually hurt anyone. And so it was just this
The
dichotomy of
Gentle Giant.
character. Yeah, but also, it's just having that capability, but trying to control it. Like, I think, maybe I personally identify with that a little bit. I don't know what my superpower is, but just thinking about that, like, oh man, I just want to be peaceful. Please don't make me do anything that's gonna make me, have to go to battle. And in the show, it's just his progression through, this kind of acceptance of what he is.
So I've done a quick search. Is it Vash the Stampede?
Vash the Stampede, that's him. Yeah.
Awesome.
And even the name was
Um,
cool.
yeah, right.
Yeah, they
Um,
call him Stampede because he
cool.
destroyed everything.
That's what you do. Well, thankfully you haven't stampeded anything here. All you've done is add value and shared with us some useful things. And everyone who's watching this now should go check out digitalmarketer.com. It is a wealth of information and resources and will help you in your marketing 100%. Mark, thank you so much for your time. And I really appreciate it. And as I like to say, I'll see you on the flip side.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Really enjoyed your book as well, and wish you luck with
Awesome.
its release. You're a beast.
Thank you so much. You too.